I felt so safe and comforted by them, but I did want to know like what I was doing there. I had a lot of questions like, am I dead? Like, am I alive? Like, I don't understand. And at the same time, I was also able to tap into my body back on Earth. So I could like hear my dad and my mom around me and other people at times. My earthly body was coming through as well. So it was such an interesting place to be. But what they explained to me was that I was there to decide if I want to go back or not. So it's like I had this choice.
Hello, thank you for tuning in. My name is Nella, and welcome to my podcast, Ethereality. Today we're hearing a near-death experience story from Gianna Mauceri, and I'm going to be super transparent with you guys. I needed this conversation. I feel like I was just breaking through one barrier after another, trying to get this interview going, but I am so grateful that it worked out because there was resistance not just on my end, but on hers. And with that amount of resistance, it makes me wonder, I feel like somebody's life is going to change. We pushed through the enemy forces against us and had this conversation. It turned out so good, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys today. Gianna, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you go ahead and start telling us your near-death experience story?
Okay. In 2016, I had a near-death experience. I was driving home from yoga teacher training one night, and I saw a car coming towards me. I saw the headlights, and the next thing I remember was waking up, blocking all four lanes of the freeway. And I realized that the car had actually hit me, and we had a head-on collision, and it was really bad. So, like, the dashboard was sitting on my lap, my review mirror was all the way in the back. It was really scary in my car. So I was like fight or flight. I tried to get out. I realized my legs were stuck. My arm was broken. There was no other way other than to just stay in the car and wait for them to get me out, which took about an hour. So in that time, it was really scary because my car was burning on fire and the flames were so big. I could see the other person's car on fire. I could hear all the people outside of my car trying to get me out, but my door was really jammed. So they had to cut the roof of my car. And so I just had to sit in my car and wait and hold my arm because it was really broken. I thought that was the moment that I was going to die. And something in that moment pulled me up. It was like going into my higher self space where I heard a voice that told me, no, you're not going to die. You're going to be okay. And it was kind of like showing me as a visual, getting out of the car, being put on a stretcher and taken to the ICU safely. And that's just what they kept showing me. Then I would come back to my fear state in my physical body where I could hear the flames in my car burning again. And I would go into that fear like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And then something would pull me back up and let me know you're safe. You're going to get out of here. And it was in that moment too that I had a remembrance. And what I remembered was that this was all part of the plan. So I actually kind of remembered planning this accident before I came here in this life. It was like a movie, like, oh yeah, this part of the movie, that's right. I get in an accident, I almost die. So it's like remembering it all as well as connecting to the higher self. It felt like God that was letting me know you're going to be okay and you're going to get out of this.
So the plan was for you to get in a car accident.
It was part of my life's plan. Yeah.
Was having the near-death experience and the exposure to the other side also a part of that plan?
The remembrance was like, oh, okay, this was going to happen all along. And then later down the track was kind of letting me know why this is part of your plan, if that makes sense.
Because I know a lot of people have life-threatening accidents and don't have any sort of out-of-body experience.
Mhm.
So I was just curious, I guess, if the actual out-of-body experience on the other side was also a part of the plan.
Mm, that's a good question. It's something that I haven't really thought about. But what I do feel when you ask me that just intuitively is reincarnation happens, and we do get to be a planner of our next lifetime. And by remembering this accident, it was like, okay, let's put this in place so that you fully learn how to love yourself. That was what it all kind of came to in a whole, which I'll open up to that story more as we go along. But I think it's all part of the plan. I think it's funny that we try to make plans here on Earth because I feel like things are planned out before we come here. And that's what I learned from this experience. I didn't always believe that, but that's kind of what came to me
I
through
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Well, what
Yeah.
happened next?
So then I was finally taken out of the car, like my vision showed me, put on the stretcher, taken to the ICU, just exactly how the vision had showed me. And I was grateful for that, obviously. But then when I got to the ICU, I was placed in an induced coma because my injuries were so bad they were going to have to operate like a few days because I just had multiple injuries. So the best thing to do is put me in induced coma. And that's when I had this really profound experience of the NDE. I mean, I think even just the accident felt pretty profound, but it gets even more profound where I find myself in what felt like to me was Venice, Italy. And I'd been there a lot of times before in my life. I used to work on cruise ships, so I would cruise through Venice and spend hours and hours getting lost in the canals. And so that's what it felt like to me too. Go and walk along here. And I knew that back on Earth, my body was really injured because I was in the car and I saw it all, felt it all. So in this space, my body was really healthy and strong. So I started doing like cartwheels and handstands and yoga postures and things like that to take advantage, which I think is funny. Now, when I think back to that, I'm like, oh, I'm almost died. Let's just do a handstand. Yeah, so I didn't really understand, but it was like I was a part of this world and it was a part of me and it was just natural to be there. So I started pondering and wandering around, and the canals would just open up into vast fields where I could keep going. But then at some point, I was lifted out of that place into what felt like the cosmos, kind of almost feels like the northern lights. Stars for miles, and it was dark there. So it was different. It felt different. And I no longer had that physical body. I kind of turned into like a light, if you will. So it was just like a little light being flickering in the cosmos. And then all of a sudden, I see seven lights coming towards me. And as they came towards me, they got bigger and bigger until I could like see their form. And what they looked like to me were angels. They actually had really big wings. They were huge, these beings. So they kind of came from little stars into like massive, huge beings. And there were five of them here in front of me, and there were two of them at my side. The one on my right side, I recognized, and I had met this angel before in my life. It was Archangel Michael. And I met him before, and I know of him because he came to me in a vision one time when I was in a really difficult part of my life, just placed his hand on my head and let me know that everything was going to be okay and that he was going to protect me. And then that was it. He was gone. And I didn't really understand that vision of him until this moment where I recognized him as Archangel Michael, the protector. And he told me that his job was to be watching over me and to be protecting me through this time, and that he would always be on my right side. So if I ever wanted to call on him again for protection, that he would always be there. On the left side was an angel that I wasn't super familiar with. And he introduced himself as Archangel Raphael. And he explained to me that he's going to be here for me through this to help me with the healing of my body, the healing of my heart, just here to help me heal. And I felt really comforted by those two archangels. The other five angels that were in front of me, they didn't really introduce themselves with a name or anything like that. To me, they felt like really old ascended masters. Like they've been around for a really long time, these guys. I have to add, there's no gender. So even when I say like he is Archangel Michael, I felt that masculinity from them. But at the same time, there was like no thing like that. No like gender, I'm a man, I'm a woman. There weren't even any words that we used to speak. It was more of a feeling, and it was just like I had to think what I wanted to say and they could understand, and I could understand them too. So it was not like we were using this language that we use. I don't know, like I always point to my belly because I feel like it's like an exchange, like a feeling. They explained that they were my guides and that they have been with me my whole life and that they will continue to be with me my whole life and that they've always been there. I felt so safe and comforted by them, but I did want to know what I was doing there. I had a lot of questions like, am I dead? Am I alive? Like, I don't understand. And at the same time, I was also able to tap into my body back on Earth. So I could hear my dad and my mom around me and other people. At times, my earthly body was coming through as well. So it was such an interesting place to be. But what they explained to me was that I was there to decide if I want to go back or not. So it's like I had this choice, which honestly felt really big for me. And they knew that that was a big decision. So all of a sudden, my body was going back down, 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 and I was back in the canals in Italy. So this was my space, and I knew it. No one had to explain anything. It was just all a knowing, like, okay, I'm back down here. We need to decide now. So I would ponder again, and I would walk for what felt like days. I was just walking these canals forever, just thinking, do I want to go back to Earth? I would feel into my family, feel into my sister and my best friend, just like all the things, all the memories. And it was almost showing me little snippets of my life, all the times where I maybe went against what I really wanted, or all of the times that I wasn't true to myself, or all the times that I didn't love myself or my body. It was a lot of self-love. And here's where you weren't loving yourself. And here's where, you put this before yourself, and like all the times you were hurting. And just kind of showing me that pain was not any separate to love. We need to experience as humans the pain as much as we experience the joy, because how will we know when we're experiencing joy if we haven't felt pain? And so it's like this really beautiful contrast of all of it and how and why things happen the way that they had to happen in my life, why the accident had to happen. Again, going back to like that remembrance of the plan. And so it was really showing me like this movie of my life. And all of it was coming back to this essence of self-love and being able to truly love and accept myself here in this lifetime. And so that raised more questions for me for the angels. So I would go back to the angels, and all I had to do again was think about it. I'm like, okay, I want to go back to them. And then I would be there. So I was back with them and just kind of, asking what happens if I don't go back. And what they explained to me, or what they showed, was kind of like starting again, reincarnation, starting in a new body, a new family, a new lifetime, a new experience, or coming back to what we have worked so hard for in this life. And I had been doing a lot of healing, a lot of things were coming up in this lifetime before the accident. I was like working with a mentor and like working with therapists, like really in some deep healing. So they kind of showed me if you continue that path, you will be supported and your body will heal and you will be okay. You will get through this. I found that really hard to believe at the time because I knew how injured I was. But they assured me, and they also assured me that I had like purpose here too. So once I healed, that I would be able to help other people heal through trauma and things like accidents at this level. So, anyways, I would go back down again and think about it and ponder and walk the canals. And it just kind of kept going back and forth like this for a while, going back to the angels, consulting, having questions. The main question that I think I had was just like, am I going to be able to get through it with all of the injuries? And it felt good. And so I don't remember saying yes or deciding or anything like that. I just remember waking up in my body and being like, did I make the right choice? No, I felt like I did. I never for once have ever felt like, did I make the wrong choice? Should I have just stayed there or gone or started again, press a reset? But it made coming back to life really beautiful. And everything that I learned from that experience truly helped me to continue on that path of healing and realize that I did have great purpose here and that I would be able to help other people through this once I was better. And as injured as I was, waking up and coming back to the injuries and things, I also felt really elated. I was in this space for days where people said they could see it in my eyes, where I was the closest that I ever felt to God and to my angels. And I just knew that they were with me. I still can feel them and I still talk to them. But immediately after, like in the hospital with my parents, it was my family and me, but it was with them as well. Like I felt Archangel Michael on my right side, and I felt Archangel Raphael on my left side, and I felt my spirit guides with me, and I still do. And I still connect with them. I still talk to them all the time. They are my leading angels. If I ever need support, I never feel alone because I do know that I have that guidance above. And I believed in this stuff before the accident, but I truly believe in it now. And I am in a place where I have healed because it was 7 to 8 years ago. I'm in a healthy body and I am helping people with trauma or people who've been through trauma. And that's what I do. I was a hairdresser when the accident happened and healing. And when I came out of the accident, obviously, I didn't want to go back to doing hair. Plus, my body was injured. So I created my own healing business. And that's what I do now is I work with people who have been through any kind of pain, any kind of trauma. In fact, we've all been through pain and trauma in our life. Like a breakup can be traumatic in our lives. I work with people on all ends of pain, trauma, and just continue to give hope after that. We can heal. It may look different for everybody, but it is possible, and there is help out there for things like this. And I like to work with people just on that deeper level too. And just my angels help me when I'm working with them. So that is my story.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing. How long did it take for your body to heal after the accident?
Honestly, it took a few years. I still experience pain in my body, chronic pain. But I've been able to really help myself with things like that. Like diet is really huge and important, learning about things like foods that cause inflammation and things like that. That's super important if you're healing your body. And just movement, making sure that I moved every day. And yeah, so it took, a couple years to feel like, oh, I'm doing things again that I couldn't do for a very long time. Like even just sitting cross-legged, like I am sitting now. It took years to just do that kind of stuff. But I won't say like I'm at 100%. I have like metal in my body, my arm, my leg. It is true. When it gets cold or rains, you feel it.
So, did you ever doubt the validity of your experience or think it could have been a dream?
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. A lot of the time for the first few years, I was like, was that just a dream? It was so different to a dream, though. It was so real, whereas like the conversations I was having were real. Dreams can be a bit sporadical where they're like, and then I went into this thing, and then all of a sudden I was at the mall, or like, like you just go on these really weird journeys in a dream. It didn't feel like that for me. And also, like, just so many signs back on Earth from the angels that continued to let me know, like, that was real. We're here. And I've also been back to that space since. I've been able to reach back into that realm in a way, not the Italy realm, but the cosmos with the angels. But I did for a long time, for sure.
Would you say Italy was one of your favorite places to visit?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like a safe space, a space that I know really well, a space where my ancestors are as well, because my family's Italian. So there's a lot that plays into it being in Italy. I think it was kind of pulling me back to my roots here in this lifetime to decide if we want to go somewhere else or do we want to stay in this lineage. Yeah.
No, I really like that. And something that I like to say, something Dr. Mary Neal had said that made a really strong impact on me was that each near-death experience is specifically designed in order to speak to each person and convey that they are intimately known and loved. And that's why, like, the things in the atmosphere and the environment are so personalized to us.
I feel the same. Absolutely. I agree to that 100%. I think that we see what we believe in. I had connected with angels ever since I was a little girl. They would come to me in my dreams, and sometimes I would just spend the whole night with like these angels. I just thought everyone had them because, when you're little, you're just like, oh. And thus I started to talk about them, like with my mom and stuff, of, yeah, like the angels were with me. They're sitting at the end of my bed. And I never felt like that was validated for me in my lifetime. I felt like I was a little different to other people, but because I connected with these angel beings, and it was really discredited my whole life from other people, just kind of like, oh, they're there, isn't she cute? She's talking about angels again. So just to what you're saying, like, I truly know that that was my experiences because I felt them and I believed in them, and nobody really believed in me in that. And so it was showing me like, yes, it's been real. And listening to other podcasts and things has been really healing. My experience was definitely catered just for me, like being in Venice, being in like with the angels. Because a lot of people have different visions and maybe they see Jesus, and that's their proof that, spirit is real because that's something they believed in.
As far as I know, I don't have any Native American background, but I would love to interview a Native American who has encountered spirits as animals. Because throughout my life, there's been this narrative of I am the wolf in the family and my brother's an eagle. And that was just kind of this cute little story for a long time
Hmm.
until I had this dream. It was definitely a visitation dream because those dreams are so different. It was a whole nother level of clarity in this visitation. there was a wolf standing in front of me and an eagle
Oh, that's cool.
right behind the wolf. We were all in this line, and I was looking at both of them, but I had the awareness and consciousness like from where my body should have been, but I also could see from up above. I had this dual location consciousness, I guess. It was interesting because it was like this consciousness split, but in the moment felt so natural.
Hmm.
It didn't even really occur to me that that was interesting.
Right.
Immediately when I entered into this scene, I had the thought, oh, I should check to see if I'm dreaming. It just in a split second, I had that idea and then was just, nope, I don't need to even check. I'm so certain that this is a dream. I'm not going to play any games.
This
And
is lucid. Let's keep going.
exactly, yes. I'm just in awe of these animals, right? And they were massive. The wolf was like the size of Jacob in his wolf form on Twilight. I don't know, just like huge. And the eagle was the same size as the wolf. So they were both just these massive creatures. And I just thought, what does this mean? The wolf wasn't initially looking at me, but as soon as I had that thought, the wolf turned its head towards me, looked at me, and slowly walked towards me and put its head down. And as if it was gesturing for me to touch it. And it just came at me with this energy of peace and love. And I put my hand between its ears. And as soon as I put my hand on its face, I understood that the message was just to be, just to simply be. And it was nothing else. And it was just to be at peace in love, and just simply be
Hmm.
because they are with me.
Yeah.
Because that was at a time in my life where I was experiencing a lot of uncertainty. And so they were
Hmm.
like, just trust you're good. Just be. I had this serious connection with this wolf in that experience. I was certain that this was one of my angels or spirit team or whatever you want to call it. But it was interesting to me that they showed up as the wolf and the eagle.
That's so powerful. Well, it sounds like they are your guides, and it's so amazing because your parents are obviously super tapped in that they see you as those animals. Yeah, that's such an amazing lucid dream.
Right?
Definitely got downloads there from your spirit animal guides. And I know in like the native culture, it's all animals, right? And it's funny because now, like, my cat's here while you're talking about the animals too. He just
Right.
came along and wanted to be really close because the animals are so intuitive. I love all of the native culture and stories. I'm not a religious person. I am Catholic, like I was brought up Catholic, but I think out of all of the ways of living, native feels most in alignment to me just because they work with animals and the earth.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and it's all to work with our elements and our intuition. That's what they work with is our intuition. And I think like going back to like near-death experiences and what you're saying about them being kind of like catered for each person, individual's belief system or whatever, it is simply that. Like we connect to what we're most connected to. God takes us to these visions or these places that we're going to most connect to be closest to God. And like you with the animals, that's where you're closest to God is with them. And I always say to people, work with the guides that show themselves to you because when you can tune into that, like, so you with the wolf, like, work with the wolf energy, like, really cultivate the wolf because you'll start to see like so much magic happening around you. That's like with me working with my angels now. I know that it's Archangel Michael and Raphael, and they're the ones that I work with. And I feel it as soon as I tune in to them, like you will with the wolf essence and the eagle. It sounds like they're both kind of there for you when the deities come through or the different energies that you want to work with, working with the deities that come through, and animals are those as well. Animals are deities. Recently, Goddess Isis has been coming through. She's not a goddess that I know much about. I know a lot of friends that work with Isis. But when something comes through, it'll show itself to you time and time again. It'll show itself in your dreams. Like with Goddess Isis, I was just at a breakfast place the other day and like someone was there with a big Goddess Isis journal. And then the next thing was someone had an Isis tattoo. And then the next thing was Isis everywhere. Okay, what does this goddess have for me? And then when I like look it up or I, ask other people, I find, oh, all of those essences are what she wants me to have right now. And the same with you with the wolf. What essence do you want to carry of the medicine of the wolf?
Yeah, so this is what I found. It says the wolf spirit animal is symbolic of listening to your intuition, seeking freedom, embracing aloneness and togetherness, being loyal and trusting, and having courage and determination to walk your true path. The keywords are courage, assertiveness, independence, inner strength, intuition, personal power, freedom, spiritual growth, solitude, deep connection, loyalty, communication, and family. And I feel like if I were to end up on the other side and be in an environment, an atmosphere that is perfectly cultivated based off of what speaks the most truth and beauty to my soul, I would end up in a lush, dense forest with wolves.
I love that. Well, honestly, I truly hope that you don't ever have that. Well, because generally with near-death experiences comes some serious trauma. So I hope you stay safe, but keep connecting with the wolf energy.
How do
Just
you
call.
do that?
I just call on them. I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna call in that wolf energy and just kind of see what shows itself to you. Because you said part of the wolf energy is intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would call on wolf and trust intuition, like what shows itself to you through that day. And I think even coming on this podcast with you today, it was really beautiful hearing you say at the beginning, there's been all kinds of challenges trying to get this podcast going today. And like I almost rescheduled on you because I was stuffy. But you said something so beautiful, which was after my years of going to church, I realized, if there was something in the way, if there was some resistance in the way, that you persevered through it because once you got there and you got to church and you realized that the message was what you really wanted to hear that day, that was like your intuition driving you there, all of it. It was not giving up on your intuition or your faith or believing. I just feel like with just the tiny amount of what you've told me is trusting that. That's what the wolf is telling you, like trust your intuition the way that you did with church. I feel the resistance in my life right now, and I'm just going to let things play out and unfold.
Well, I'd have to literally fight to make it there. I have to fight through the resistance. It was the days that I felt like I really couldn't get up. I didn't want to get dressed. I didn't sleep the entire night for one reason or another, or something was just in the way and making it feel near impossible to drag myself through this activity. Yeah, it was always the days that I dragged myself through the most resistance that the message was perfectly tailored to exactly what I needed to hear at that time. And after experiencing that so many times, and now in my life, I recognize that in a lot of different areas too, not just going to church. And with the work that I do, having this podcast conversation with the amount of resistance, I knew that almost almost to the same magnitude of the resistance would be an equal and opposite profound positive experience if I were to push through. There's that balance, right? I mean, I don't know if you noticed a couple times in this conversation, I've started to tear up just because it's just so close to home, like it's just true to my core. And I'm
Mhm.
so grateful that what I do is talk to people like you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being here. Yeah.
Thank you. I know it almost didn't happen. And I hope that this conversation today was a bit like those days at church where we both showed up in like mounds of resistance, but we both kind of learned a little from it or like comforted each other through it.
Well, and even just having this conversation about the wolf and the eagle, I feel so much more connected and recounting it myself and remembering that I needed this. And I knew that I needed it.
I love that we went into the wolf dream. Like, that's really powerful. I'm not special because I had a near-death experience, you know. I don't feel special or because we can have these experiences in our waking lives, and you just showed a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I didn't die.
Like, because it's like we are having these powerful experiences here in the world, in life, every day, in our dreams. If you can tap in that way, you know, we don't have to almost die to have an experience with God or with our guides. I think this is really powerful to show like you had a profound experience and didn't have to go through trauma. Like we can tap into that intuition. That was part of my purpose of coming back here, was helping people not just through trauma but to empower the intuition that we have, trusting fully your own power, your own essence, not doubting the intuition that we carry. That's why I say I'm not special, I just had this experience. We can have these experiences all day long if we pay attention to our intuition. Our intuition's constantly telling us these things.
If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you've enjoyed my content before, or maybe you're new here but you like it, drop a comment and let me know you're here. I would love to get to know my audience. Thank you for listening, and let's get back to the content. So you said that you were raised Catholic.
Yeah.
By the time that you had your near-death experience, had you moved away from those beliefs?
Yeah, I think it's still a part of me on a whole. Like, I don't go to church. I'm not practicing Catholic or anything like that. I have my own relationship with lots of different religions, to be honest with you.
But before the
So,
near-death experience, though,
yeah,
since you were raised Catholic, had you still had a lot of those Catholic beliefs?
no, I didn't. Actually, the near-death experience brought me back closer. Before the accident, I was spiritual. I still am like spiritual in a way. I just have many different beliefs that I believe in now. But I think it definitely brought me back after the accident to the Catholic, to Jesus, to the Mother Mary, like really connected back to that essence, like back to my core. I don't go to church. I would go to church though, like if somebody invited me, and I have, you know, been, I don't have any issues with that. I just practice in my own way with Jesus. I really connect with the Mother Mary very deeply. You know, I have my practices with Catholicism, but I also believe in I love other religions. Like I love Hinduism so much. I love Krishna is another, you know, deity that really came through strong to me. I just love a little bit of every religion rolled into one. I think they're all beautiful, but I don't want to fully commit and practice like one thing. And it's just, I think I've cultivated my own spiritual practices through that.
So you said you were a hairdresser beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Afterwards, did you find yourself not experiencing the same fulfillment that you previously had in doing the hairdressing thing?
Yeah. No, I wasn't interested in connecting with people through that way anymore, through doing their hair. I knew it was deeper, and I knew that I wanted to talk to people on a much deeper level.
How long did it take you to recognize that you weren't getting that fulfillment and to transition away from it?
I knew it before the accident, and that's why I started studying. I was actually studying in the healing arts, metaphysical counseling before it. So I was working my way into the healing arts and helping people. And when the accident happened, it kind of just did it for me. It was, okay, well, can't do hair anymore. So let's follow the dream that you've been wanting to. And it happened very naturally, very quickly. I started working with people. I had to do some healing first. Maybe a year after my accident, I started sitting with people and working with them through their traumas. And then I expanded, and now I have a wellness center that we just opened about a year ago and cultivated a group of all women healing practitioners in our center. And that's been a dream of mine for a really long time. And I help people through other forms of healing modalities too. So I do energy healing, I'm attuned to Reiki, and I teach Reiki. I do sound healing, I work with sound. And that's one of the main healing aspects that is just beautiful working with people. And I got my degree in metaphysical counseling. So it's been a work in progress over the years, and it's still going, going, going. And sometimes I dream about coloring hair, but like I literally dream that I'm like foiling someone's hair or something. And I dream in color, I will always be a colorist, but just helping people in a different way.
Yeah, a lot of people who have near-death experiences, they try to come back into the workforce doing what they were doing before and find themselves wildly unfulfilled in ways that they never experienced before because now their soul recognizes this connection to something deeper and has that drive and
Mhm.
desire to have a sense of fulfilling purpose in their life. That's why I asked that question because it's really common for near-death experiencers.
I'm starting to volunteer for hospice now. So I really want to be with people at that time in their lives and offer love and healing and just hope, you're going to cross the rainbow bridge and it's going to be beautiful. And, this isn't the end for you. This is, the start to a new beginning, perhaps, and help them carry those values into their next.
It's a transition, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a plaque on my wall that says, "Death is not the end, it's metamorphosis."
It is.
So, did you feel like you came back with any sort of abilities or that door to the other side was more open?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was feeling stuff all the time. Since then, I've definitely been able to connect with some spirits on the other side. And there's been a
Like
few,
mediumship?
a little bit, I wouldn't say like I would never class myself as that, but I guess, yeah, there's been some spirits that have come through me, people that I don't know. Whoa, okay. I don't know why she wanted to come through to me, but she did. And, have reached out to the family member and stuff like that. It's been really profound, some stuff that has happened. Absolutely.
I interviewed Ray Catania. He had a really, really traumatic upbringing. And so he was recognizing that all these spirits that were coming to him were deeply traumatized spirits that needed some sort of resolution. It was a little overwhelming for him. He was like, why am I constantly dealing with all this really heavy trauma? The way that he understood it was because they go to who they believe can actually resonate and understand the experience that they're trying to convey.
Mm.
I feel like the reason that they chose you to come through is because there's something in the lens that you see life that resonates with them.
One of the spirits that came through, there were so many similarities with her and I. I mean, we even had the same birthday. As I started to discover more about this woman, I was like, why is she coming through to me? Even when I was in the hospital after my accident, she was in the next hospital over, transitioning on the same date as me. It was
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, that's another story, maybe for another podcast time. But that was a really cool one. Like, that was like, I don't know, there's no denying that shit. Like, there's just no denying that when it's like there unfolding in front of you. It's really amazing. So yes, so it's sporadical. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe just when I'm working with someone, maybe if I'm giving Reiki to somebody, and I'll tell them afterwards there was like a grandfather figure here, and they will know exactly who it was. I just kind of have to like say what I saw. And at first I wasn't really sharing it, but now I do. And it doesn't happen every time, but I don't ever promise anyone like a clairvoyant experience because I don't know if or when or what. But I feel like the spirits guide me in sessions a lot of the time, or I'll just hear things and then I'm okay, I guess I should ask them that. And it will be actual like pure guidance to get more answers from through them or help them with their process. So it's really cool.
So what does it feel like?
For me, it comes through in different ways. It can just simply be words that I hear, or it's a feeling, and a very intuitive feeling in my stomach, or it can be a vision. I can actually see something. And it kind of is the way that I explained when I was in the car and they showed me getting out and putting me in the stretcher. So it's a very clear vision. So it is important for me to like say what I feel and see in the end, detaching myself from it because I don't fully know what it is. They just show me like little things here and there. And it's important for me to say that to them because they will know what it means. And sometimes they don't. They're like, oh, okay, I'm not sure. But later they'll come back and be like, oh, remember how you had the vision of the pig or whatever? And then they'll like, this is what it means. And then they'll like give me their interpretation of it. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't promise those for people in our
Yeah.
sessions. Our sessions are just really grounded in like counseling. Let's go back to the trauma, and then, things will unfold from there.
Did you
Yeah.
feel like the people in your life were really receptive to when you would share your experience?
Yeah, I feel like everybody has been very receptive about it, especially my family coming out of it. I think that I was actually surprised by their receptiveness of it. Yeah, I was surprised that they would hear me in that way and support me too, like really like support me with it.
Wow, that's a blessing.
It can be hard sometimes, like I realize it definitely at times can feel really challenging to be in the world. After having an experience like that, I find for myself that there are days that in life, like life can get really challenging just on a whole, with or without trauma or anything. There can be blocks and other people's stuff holding us up, and just, life can get really hard.
A lot of people who do watch these videos are people who've had near-death experiences, and explaining that challenge of integrating yourself into the world again after having that sort of an experience is really helpful for people to be validated in, to hear is an experience that other people had.
I think it's important too, because it's not all unicorns and rainbows coming back. It definitely was challenging being in the world after having an experience like that and knowing that there are other realms and dimensions and fully believing that. And it can get really hard to stay grounded here on earth when you've been like, woo, it's a little bit of grief almost that comes with it. It's like grieving that place because it was so peaceful there, you know?
Yes, nothing quite like it here on this planet.
Yeah. And I don't know if other near death people have said that before because I yearn for that again, not the injuries and whatever, but I
No.
yearn for that connection again because, like I said, I never felt so close to God. And when you're going through challenging times in life, you yearn for that safetyness again.
So you were encountering those angels, and you say that you felt so close to God. What was your perception of God on the other side?
like God being everything in everything, not just like some dude somewhere in the sky, but like is the sky, is the sun, is every plant and every single human that you connect with, you will connect with God. Animals, nature. I feel most connected to God when I'm back in nature with animals.
Absolutely. I heard this one woman, she was talking about how after she came back to her body and she opened her eyes, she was in her living room and she was able to see this energy that was emanating from everything, from her body, from her plants on the windowsill. But she also noticed this light energy that was coming out of things that were man-made, like the coffee table and the throw pillows. And she said that there was just this intuitive information exchange as if she was having a conversation with her plant telepathically. It was the plant was basically telling her, like, I am a plant serving God, serving you, and that I am a throw pillow serving you, serving God. She recognized that this energy wasn't just in things that we could perceive have life. We perceive that, okay, a plant grows, it has life, but then we'd look at a rock and think because it's consistently just a rock, that it doesn't have the life energy in it, but it does.
I love that story. That's really cool. Because, yeah, it shows like it's not always just living things, but everything around us emanates energy and is a part of us, and we are a part of that.
Every single molecule and every atom.
It wouldn't be here or exist.
Yeah, it's interesting because I grew up Christian. So I had in my mind that I would always need to try to strive for this connection with God. Like he was just this guy in the sky, and I had to do everything right in order to feel connected to him. And then I realized that omnipresence literally meant within everything. And it's in the Bible that God is omnipresent and is in and a part of all things, yet it's not conceptually taught or practiced or really understood, I don't feel like.
I definitely never understood that until later years, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely something that should have a lot more focus in the church. And one last question to ask you. If there was one takeaway that you wanted every viewer to get, say, kind of like a mission statement, what is
Mhm.
it that you would like to get across?
I think the one main thing that really stood out for me out of everything was I was really busy when the accident happened. I was like going, 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 going. I wasn't taking a breath or a moment to myself. And what I really learned from that was just slowing down and taking some deep breaths when we can, and just knowing that it's also okay to slow down. There's no reason for us to just be like chomping at it like that. So, my message is if you feel like you're going too fast in life right now, slow down. It's okay. Give yourself permission. Slow down and just take a moment to tune into yourself and ask yourself, what can you let go of a little to create space in your life? Because when we create space in our lives, we are able to feel more. We can feel our intuition. We can listen to signs that are coming to us. We can hear the downloads. But when we're going so fast, it's hard to hear and it's hard to know what's happening within us. Be present with the ones that you love the most. Because I wasn't doing that. And it was just such a big realization of like, be present, slow down, spend time with the ones that you love the most, because we literally do not know what's going to happen. We do not have control. We might think we have control, but we don't. Like everything's out of our control at the end of the day. I mean, we can make a plan, and if it goes to plan, beautiful, but sometimes it doesn't go to plan, and that's okay. That's just saying that was not meant to be there for you. And when we create space, the thing that is meant to be there for you will magically appear. But we got to create the space for it and slow down.
My brother and I have this little saying that we throw out there when challenges arise is nothing has gone wrong. Even if it feels like everything is going wrong, nothing has gone wrong because it's all working for our greater good, whether
Yeah.
it makes sense to us or not.
And it may not make sense for a while, but it will make sense to you later. And there will be something even better to fill that space.
So, in the beginning of this, you mentioned that your story was really all about embracing that self-love. Is there anything that you want to say about that too?
Yeah, I think that was like my own personal story because I wasn't loving myself. I just had body dysmorphia and was just not confident. I was super codependent in my life. So just to speak to that is if you are going through any challenges like that, or you're like dealing with depression, anxiety, just knowing that there is support out there for you and you don't have to do it alone. I seeked a lot of support and remembered that, the true love that we're looking for is here. It is within us. That's what I was looking for the whole time. I was just trying to fill the space with other things and other stuff and being busy when really it is all here and we already have what we're looking for. Again, it's just finding that space to slow down so you can find it, find that beautiful gem inside of you. We all have it. We're all amazing. We're all gifted. There's enough in this world for everybody to go around and not compare ourselves to others and just doing the inner work within yourself and healing. That's where you will break free. You will really break free of those beliefs and live in a life that you love, of unconditional love. And that's what I learned truly from the near-death experience. It was my own solo thing that I needed to learn. And, I was always complaining about my body and my legs and my things like this. And my legs are almost taken away from me. So when I woke up in the hospital with legs, I was so grateful that I still had these beautiful legs. And I will never, ever speak poorly or badly about my body again. So that is my message of self-love. And if you need guidance and support, it is out there. Reach out to me. I will help you. I have so many tools in my toolbox for that sort of thing. And just sharing with people that you love and trust is super important as well. And just being vulnerable is beautiful.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that with me and with us, and for taking time out of your day today to have this conversation, even though there was a point where we weren't sure it was going to work out.
Is this gonna work?
I'm so glad that it did.
Yay. Me too. This was a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for showing up and being patient while our internet went down multiple times and just being a champ.
Yes, yes. I mean, the message needed to get out. So here we are.
All right. Thank you so very much. Thank you to the listeners.
Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. If you loved this episode, please consider leaving a review. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so we don't lose each other. And to share the link with somebody who can appreciate this message. Blessings to you all, and I hope to catch you on my next episode.